Today's guest has many accomplishments that revolve around educating women and children with 29 books published and many insightful articles. She continues to inspire women through speaking engagements and events, teaching ideas on how to live more intentionally. I am all about living with intention, so I'm excited to introduce Sara Blau to the show. Welcome, Sara. I'm so excited to sit with you, and I have so many questions for you. You've done so much in such a short amount of time. I need to know how you're doing this because I think everyone wants to be superwoman in a sense that they want to put something out there and reach audiences. Please introduce yourself and share your background and how you started your own brand of inspiring women and writing children's books and what unifies these concepts.
Sure. So the truth is, when I started, I didn't have my end goal in mind. I didn't know that I was going to be writing books for women and books for children. What happened was I had two little ones at home. It was extremely draining, tiring, and I also found that at night when they were finally sleeping, I was lonely and I was bored. I didn't have a smartphone yet. So it started very much to fill my own needs, and my needs were to be a little bit more inspired in my mothering and to have an outlet for creativity. My husband was actually working at night in a yeshiva job, and he was the one that encouraged me. He said, "Why don't you write?" And that's really
I
what I
love it.
started doing. I started, I first wrote a manuscript of the children's book for my own kids, and then I sent it to my sister-in-law. Like, it really started very organically, and they're like, "Send it to a publisher." And I was like, "Okay." And I emailed it. It was, it didn't start professional. It started very much coming from a place of I believe this, like, God designs my life with a certain circumstance, and that's exactly what I need in order for me to know which path to take. Like, my life has a bunch of arrows and they're all indicating to me what I'm supposed to do next. So this unrest, this feeling of like discomfort actually pushed me to go ahead and write.
I can relate to this, and I think moms also find themselves in circumstances where they're finding themselves beyond motherhood. They're like, I'm a mom, but there's like more to my role than being a mom. So what can I do with these skill sets and how can I change? So sometimes we're not there yet. We're not thinking change the world, but ultimately that's what we hope to achieve. We want to reach many people because that's how we make greater impact. So I love that you just felt this need and it felt right and you did it. Um, Tell me how you wrote children's books, but you also have a book for women called Thought Streams. So how did that process differ? What was that like? Like, how did you segue into, okay, now I want to write for women?
So I actually have two books for women. I have Thought Streams, and I also have another book called Close to You.
Right.
And I'm working on a third one.
Nice.
So it really, it wasn't really so different in the sense that it was the same time period that I started. And the books for kids was a creative outlet for me to teach them concepts. And the books for women was to elevate my mundane life. I wasn't learning, I wasn't feeling inspiring. And therefore, everything felt very boring. And suddenly, when I was learning and I was writing, like, there was a spark to it so that even day to day life could be motivating, could be inspiring. And that's something that I've really learned, that we have a lot of different parts of our lives and they're all pulling for our attention, whether it's work, whether it's friends, whether it's a social scene, or our children, our jobs, our desires, all our hopes and dreams. But when we make a central core mission statement, when we're spiritually in tune, when we're aligned to the mission that God wants from us, everything falls into place. We get clarity. It's kind of like, imagine there's a show, a production, and like the dancers, the singers, the actors, they're not talking to each other. They're each just pulling and they want to be the main actors and characters. There's a script. There's what we're doing here. So I
Right.
found that becoming more spiritually aligned and recognizing what God wants from me helped with the rest of my day. Help me be more present with my kids. Help me accomplish all the day-to-day things that I have to accomplish.
So now I have to ask, can you share what that personal experience was like? Like, when did you have that aha moment? Like, this is my mission. This is what I'm meant to do.
So the core mission is so core that it's not specific. It's, what can I do to you? There's one of my favorite lines was, my talents are God's gift to me, and what I do with it is my gifts to him. So what it looks like really evolves. I ran a day camp for 10 years. This is the first summer that I am not running the camp, actually. but my mission is still the same, to use the gifts that God has given me, my creative energy and ability, to inspire. So sometimes that looks like writing children's book, and sometimes that looks like writing books for women, and sometimes that looks like running art parties, where I teach something inspiring and then the women learn something. But my mission state, it's like when you look at big brands and successful brands, Starbucks is not selling you a cup of coffee. When you look
Right.
at their mission statements, right? There was like I saw like a giveaway on Instagram for like this adorable company for like baby items, very pastel-y, pretty colors. And I saw their line. It was like, we're here to bring you peace and calm.
Right.
It's very global. It's not about like the pacifier. So I think that it's important for us to have these like, you know, spiritual core godly mission statements, and then everything falls into place. It's godly to cook food for my children. It's godly to go shopping with them and pack them up for camp. It's godly for me to write children. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just like a play can have an actor and a singer and a dancer, I could be doing many different things and wear many different hats, or like somebody once joked, many different shaitels, right? Because it's one concept. It's like you have the same recipe, then you could have 10 flavors of, or colors of that thing. It's the
Right.
same thing. I'm trying to make a difference in this world. I'm trying to impact, to inspire. So whatever avenue I could try to do that brings me joy and that is something that I could touch another person, right? I'm going to do it. I love doing podcasts, but I also like, writing, whatever it is that I have this ability, it's the difference between almost like being dead or alive. Like, it's the difference between feeling bogged down by the mundane, like just blah, versus like having a passion, having a fire. And that's what I encourage women to do. Like, get that fire, get that passion, because your whole life will be different.
I love it. And I can relate to it so much because in the space I work in, which is business branding, we try to find that fire. What is that motivation behind your business? We call that the why, like why you do this every day. So it's funny, like I'm hearing you talk about this, and it's so much it's so obvious in Judaism, right? There's so much of that, like live with intention. And how many times do we just get lost in the mundane of life? We're just living, and we're just surviving. We're not even living. We're just surviving. We're getting through each day. Okay, today's over. Thank God, that was so hard. Okay, maybe tomorrow will be easier. And when you set the intention and you know exactly what you hope to achieve that day, who could you make smile? Whose life could you change today? What act of kindness can you do? When you set the intention for the day, everything will revolve around that and become better. So, and I teach this in business because, you have to get to that mindset, right? You can't just like build a business overnight.
It's
You
so
have to
true.
get in the mindset of it and set the intention for success. You don't become successful without setting that intention.
It's
So
interesting. I want to comment on what you just said about like being nice to other people and smile. I've noticed more and more businesses pivoting that when it comes to marketing, it's not about like selling yourself, but it's about providing service.
serve, yes, serve, don't
Yes.
sell. I say
And
it all
that's
the time.
exactly a Jewish concept. Like, we
Yes,
are not here for ourselves. We're not here to promote ourselves. Even our whole brand is not about ourselves. It's actually to promote something greater. We're here to serve. How can we help you? It's the whole
yes.
world is recognizing that we actually function better and are more successful when we're selfless rather than when we're selfish.
And you know what? Like I'm getting chills because like the Torah is a blueprint to success, life success. And
Right.
right now, entrepreneurs are teaching other entrepreneurs that the blueprint to success is happiness and having intention. And I'm like, wait, but we know this already.
We
And I'm
do.
reading
We
these books and I'm
do.
like, we
Yeah.
figured this out. But I
Yeah.
think it's that application that can become a little tricky sometimes. So I actually want to ask you about that. What
Sure.
advice would you have for women that are stuck in that cycle of just not feeling inspired, or things are just feeling blah, boring, continuous? Like, how can they how can we as women make our lives more interesting? How can we set that intention? What advice would you have for that?
So I really think that everybody's different. And, I have a friend who's very athletic. I have friends that like to bake. I have, you know, I think it's important, again, similar to what I was saying before about the circumstances God puts us in are like indicators for us. What do you enjoy? What did you like doing as a kid? Those are all part of your life's mission. Like, there's no mistakes. Nothing's like by mistake or by coincidence. So God custom made your life. So you enjoy something, you like baking, bake away, like get creative, do royal icing cookies and take lessons and give it to Bikur Cholim for families that are sick if that's what you need. But every woman, I would say, has something, and find it, and don't compare yourself to somebody else, because with the world of social media, everyone looks at that other person like, wow, she's such an amazing mother, she takes her kids on all these trips. You might not have energy to do trips, but you're sitting at home making these beautiful crafts with your kids. Like, don't compare yourself to someone else. And I say this not just as a mother, but as a business person. If you're an entrepreneur, like, don't look at anyone else's success, because you're not there to accomplish what someone else is to accomplish.
Amen. Yeah, I agree with that. I am guilty of that, getting caught up in like everyone else's stuff. And then
Oh,
it's
for sure.
like,
We all do
right,
it.
we
We all
all do
do
it.
it.
And
And we
it's
get jealous of other people. And it's like, wait, I was not meant to do that. That's their role in this world. I have my unique skill set, ability, influence, and that's the only thing I need to focus on.
And I want to add to that, you can learn new skills. Like I remember feeling so limited and thinking like, oh, if only I could do XYZ, I can offer more, I can do more, I can help people on a bigger scale. And I was like, wait, nothing's stopping me from taking a course or figuring it out or reading some books. Like we all have room to grow, and there's really nothing limiting us or holding us back from getting to where we want to get to.
Right, right. As
Um,
long as it's where we want to get to, not like where the other
right.
person is. And that's what I think is
100%.
so important. Like, where could I contribute to this world? That's the only question I need to think about. Like, what does God want from me?
I love that. Thank you so much for adding that in. It's so true. So now we're going to take a little pivot. I want to talk about the kids aspect. So we talked about women, but now you also have this kid audience. We're going to come back to the women. So we know why you wrote books for kids, but you also have something called Art and Learn. So can you share a little bit more about what that is? Is that like a paint night, and how does it differentiate itself from a paint night? What's the learning aspect? And I also want to point out that I love that you unify the women and children audiences in this in this program. So tell us more about that.
So, again, it was about fusing different passions and loves that I have. I love teaching and I love art. So, yeah, it's kind of like your typical paint night. But what I usually do is I start off teaching something connected to the painting. And then we paint. And I find that what that does is that then when you have that painting hanging on your wall, you remember what you learned. It's like a way to really like, you're containing it. You're really anchoring what you learned into something. And painting is so therapeutic. People enjoy it, people relax. And when they come out this way, it's like it's a multi-sensory experience. Like it's fun for your body and for your soul. And I find that people are so thirsty. People are
Yes.
so thirsty. Like they want to grow and learn. And I'm sometimes like inspired. I come teach something and the women just want more and more and more and more. And children too. Children have a natural curiosity. They're open, they're curious, they ask
Yes.
questions. And that's why, like, really any age, they really want to learn.
I want to point out, it's interesting as we're talking, um, I noticed that when creatives come to me with so many talents and so many passions, we call them multi-passionate, and they don't know where to channel their interests and passions to create a business in the sense that they feel like they're connecting with their audience. So you are connecting with your audience by giving them what they're looking for in so many different ways. So everything you're doing has the same underlying why. And you're setting the same goal, which is to help others, inspire others, empower others. But that why that lights you up and gets you excited, and that yearn for inspiring others, and that passion that you have is really what unifies everything. I feel like this is like kind of a theme of yours, that you find a way to self-express and do things that feel fulfilling for you, but in a way that you're channeling it so directly. It's not feeling all over the place. And I think anyone who feels multi-passionate should really be following you and taking a page from your book, quite literally, because you do it so well. And it's nice and refreshing to see someone who's so clear on their achievements and what they hope to, like the way you hope to impact others and inspire others. And you do it in so many different ways. It's just different channels to the same result. So I love that. I'm sure many listeners have thought about speaking or writing. It takes a lot of confidence to get there. What kind of advice can you give to listeners who think about maybe writing a book or doing speaking engagements. Like they want to do this, but they can't see themselves getting there. They have all these limiting beliefs or doubts or, insecurities that are holding them back. So what advice would you give someone that wants to get there but can't take that first step?
So the first thing I want to do is like acknowledge and validate. We all have this fear of failure and what if I get rejected. And so the first thing I would say is psych yourself that you will get rejected. Like for every manuscript that I have accepted, I have multiple rejected. I just got an article rejected today that I spent hours on, that I worked so hard on, that I thought was so beautiful, and it wasn't really a fit for the website that I sent it to. And I sent pitches. I think what's very important is to prepare yourself that you're in charge of the effort. God is in charge of the result. Like we take too much ownership over what's going to happen. That's not your department. And what's very counterintuitive is that when you don't think about yourself is when you find yourself. Like, even the words you used before, like you're a mom, I want to find myself. Don't think about yourself. Because if you're going to think about who needs you, right? Like if you write a book and the publisher tells you like, we don't think there's a market for it, it's not going to sell, you'll be really sad. But that you were writing a book that you wanted to write as opposed to a book that the market needed. I think it's so important to just really stay focused that it's not about me and it's not about the results, and I will fail. Like that's a fact. And I think that a lot of time the biggest fear is we're afraid to face it. So I'm saying just face it. Like tell yourself I failed. And I have many books that are orphaned manuscripts. Nothing became of them. But you know what? Maybe I didn't send it to an official publisher and maybe it didn't get published on a website, but maybe I shared it with family. Maybe I shared it with friends. Like we have these external metrics of success.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many people viewed my stories? How many followers do I have? And they're very, very external. That's not really an accurate metric for my impact in the world. It's really not. They say Moses had only one mother, right? And she gave birth to a leader of Jewish people who had untold impact. We don't really know the impact. And so that person who's feeling insecure about their writing or their speaking, I want to tell you something. I feel anxious before every single time I speak, and I speak all the time. And not only that, sometimes I speak and I connect brilliantly with the audience. And sometimes when I speak and I'm a royal flop. I recently spoke and people were talking and it didn't go down well. And if my ego fluctuates with when I'm successful, I feel high, and when I fail, I feel low, then I'm just going to flip flop. We need to have like this baseline of I'm responsible for the effort. Hashem, God is responsible for the results, right? I do not measure myself or my success by anything external, even though of course you have to do the technicalities. We have to analyze data and we have to see how we could do better. And I'm not saying to ignore them. I'm saying to recognize what's important, and what's important is my mission, my role, what I'm here to accomplish.
Thank you for that. I'm inspired. I just got the Sara Blau experience right here, one-on-one. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Thank you. I needed this talk. But what's like one bite-sized piece of information that you can give to listeners to just start the day right today on the right foot, and like, this is going to be an awesome day?
So, you mentioned in the beginning how Judaism informs so much of our day. I really think, I didn't get these questions before. So it's not like I thought about this before, but it's really the first thing that comes to mind when you ask for like that daily thing. That daily thing is right when you wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning and you say, Moda ani lefanecha. And literally, the literal translation of those words are, I am very grateful. But the deeper translation of these words is Moda. Not just I'm grateful, I acknowledge. And take the time. Don't just rattle off these words and get out of bed. And if you don't say it yet, I encourage you to say it. Moda, I acknowledge. Ani, I, my real essence, who I really am. I'm a soul. I have a mission. I have a purpose. God created me for a reason. They say the birthday is the day that tells you that God doesn't make mistakes. Like you had to have existed. Moda, I acknowledge. Ani, me, my essence, lifanecha, is before you, is one with you, wants to serve you. And when I take the time to meditate on Moda Ani, my day is a completely different day.
Wow.
because I'm centering myself that I'm not my weaknesses, I'm not my strengths, I'm not my struggles, I'm not my challenges, I'm not my failures, and I'm not my imperfections. I'm my essence. Ami, who's the real me? Because when I'm in that mode, when I'm in the mode of my real me, then all the icky things that happen in our day, and they will happen because they happen to all of us, they don't get to affect me and they don't get to take over my life as much because that's not me. I'm not my shame. I'm not my guilt. I'm not my doubt. I'm not my losing it. I'm not my hypocrisy. I'm none of that. I am a soul. I'm a fire. I'm a literal piece of God. And that's unstoppable. So access that right when you wake up, right? You don't even wash your hands. You don't even get out of bed. You're accessing your soul power. Sometimes people, they say like, what do you want? Like, what are you taking? I'm using soul power. Soul power is just this high voltage, unlimited boost of, I'm not going to even let my own insecurities, imposter syndrome. I mean, we got all of that, right? Like, this is so normal. So that's what I would say. And it really answers everything. Like, if you're an aspiring writer out there, if you're an aspiring speaker, just get into that mode, get into that soul mode, and recognize that you're not a hypocrite. Your challenges don't define you. You're a normal human being, but you got a godly, holy soul that can guide you and really can, put you in the driver's seat.
I love that. Wow. I'm really going to think about Modani differently tomorrow morning. I really am. That was beautiful. Oh my gosh. I wish we could talk even longer, but I absolutely loved chatting and hanging out with you today. Where can we follow you and learn more about you?
So you could check out my website, sarablau.com. I'm working on it a little bit. And I'm actually working on a course that I'm going to be launching in August. So you could definitely check it
Ooh.
out. And I'm on Instagram, Sara_Blau_CH. It's actually very funny because there's another author, Sara Blau, that people mix me up with. Haven't met
Be
her,
the
but
first. Yeah, I feel like that happens. Like you put stuff out and then suddenly you realize there's like 12 of you out there.
yeah, it was funny. I did a podcast this week with another Moses. I was like, wait, both are you guys related?
We are probably not.
Exactly,
It's so funny.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I wish you and all your listeners so much luck, success in every single way, impact, reach, accomplishments in whatever you're trying to do. And just know that when God is your front and center and your mission to make this world a better place is front and center, then everything else will please God follow.
Thank you so much. And this was awesome.
Thank you, Michelle.